Hey guys, welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at my top 5 favorite Foo Fighters intro riffs, and then I'm going to show you how to play each and every one of them. So with the Foo Fighters, it's always been a band that I've absolutely loved. I love Dave Grohl, I love everything about the music, but I've never actually learned to really play any of the tracks. Maybe in my kind of one-to-one teaching days, we did a couple of them here or there, but this has been a fantastic experience for me to actually go back, choose 5 of my favorites and learn them, and actually go through the process of kind of learning these so I can teach them to you properly. Now, as I was going through and learning these tracks, it was fantastic for me to just remind myself that no matter what level you're at on the guitar, some things will still trip you up when you're learning. Even some of these riffs which might consider, really early intermediate level, maybe even beginner riffs, some of these still can trip you up as you're learning. And for me, there were little bits in it where it's just like, I'm just not quite getting this. And I had to go through round and round, as you can see here, to just really get those parts together so I can kind of show you. So I'm going to be going through one riff at a time. So keep watching the video all the way through to see what all 5 riffs are, and then I'm going to show you how to play them. And just before we start, I want a quick test for Foo Fighters fans, because I know there's probably a lot of you guys watching out there are big Foo Fighters fans. So I'm going to play you a 1-second burst of one of the tracks that we're going to be looking at, and I want you to see if you can name the track just from that tiny fraction of it. Ready? Here it is. Okay, so if you know what that track is, then pop it in the comments below. I'll be really interested to see if you can get it from that tiny little clip. How big a Foo Fighters fan are you is essentially the question there. Okay, so just before I show you that first riff, we are doing this video in conjunction with the guys at Guitar Pro. And it's a fantastic software, so if you've not got that software, then check out the link in the description. And if you want the tabs to all 5 of these tracks that I'm going to show you, the Guitar Pro tabs, then please head over to the other link in the description where you'll be able to find and download all of those. So without further ado, here is the first track. Okay, so let's go through the 2 parts here for this track, and it starts with this bit, obviously, and then we've got the main. So let's just do this first, and the first thing I'll say is that I would probably, if I was just playing this intro riff, irrespective of the rest of the song, it does sound a little better to drop D it. You don't have to, because you don't have to play that low E string at all, but if you do drop D it, then there's certainly this opening part. It just helps a little bit because it's centered around D, the track's centered around D, and it just gives that extra kind of security that if you do hit that low string, it's going to fit with this, essentially. So it's a possibility, but you don't have to do it. Now, this opening part, basically what you're going to do is you're going to fret the little finger on the 5th fret high E string and the 3rd finger on the 5th fret G string, leaving the B string can be blocked, and then here you're going to basically be going on and off from the open string to the 5th fret of the with the 2nd finger. Okay, so this is all up on the 5th fret. I know you can't see the headstock here, but this is the 5th fret. Okay, and everything else is muted. So I end up with this kind of chord, kind of a cool chord shape, and I like it best when there's not many open strings, but the open strings are there as well. Okay, so again, it's a bit of personal choice. I think in the track it sounds like there's some open strings there because it's quite an aggressive sound. With all the open strings, if you're playing with tons and tons of distortion, you might choose to maybe block some of those strings. But for me, both are good, and I think the open strings are closer to the track. So with the right hand, you're just going to be doing down-up strumming all the way, rather than down-down strumming, all down-up strumming. And you're basically going to do this pattern. So it's off, on, and then off, on. Okay, so off, on, off, on. Down, up, down, like that, okay? And then repeat it. and then just repeat the first 2 hits. Yeah, first 2 hits. Okay, so you get this. Okay, and if you want to get a big, then you just slam your hand down. Okay, so it's off, off, on, on, hit. Okay, so it's really just getting that melody into your head. And then and that's your intro, okay? Then as you go into the main riff, okay, so as we hit this. Now, this is relatively easy to play, I think, but it's just the timing is a little bit awkward. So basically what we're doing here is we're starting with the open D string, then we're gonna go 12, and then 10, and then the open D string again. And then we're gonna grab the 12th fret on the G string and the 11th fret on the G string. You're gonna repeat that twice. And then you're gonna jump to the 12th fret on the A string and the 10th fret on the A string. Okay, so the riff in its entirety, which gets repeated, is this. With the right hand, notice that I'm doing all down up picking, so down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Just keeps it nice and rhythmical, much easier than if you were to try and do all kind of, if you're trying to do all downstrokes, that's going to really start hurting your wrist a little bit. So that's the kind of main part, but the thing to understand is this is in 7/4, so rather than kind of 4/4 as your typical time signature, it's in 7/4, which basically means we just count to 7. If I do it out loud, you'll understand what I'm saying. So it's this little fiddly bit here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Now I wouldn't necessarily recommend being able to do that counting. You can try it if you want. It is a bit of a mind-numbing process, and I had to go through it a few times to count in 7 because I'm so used to counting in 4 or 6. 7's a bit awkward, but that's part of the fun of this track, okay? So it kind of, you might feel like, oh, it feels a little bit stifled, like I'm starting earlier than I should do, like I should go like this. You know, to get it to 8, to even up the numbers, so 7, 8, back again. But that's really the key part of this riff, okay? So when you put it all together, you get something like this. Again. One way to think of it. Or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Okay, so let's now move on to the second track. Any guesses for what it might be? Well, here it is. Okay, so let's go through this track, and we kick off with this lovely drop down like so, okay? And it's just a big power chord, B power chord going down. We're in drop D, so we've got the low E string ringing out as a D string now. And we're gonna grab that 9th fret on the low 3 strings and just drop it off. Now then we're gonna go like this. Okay, so we're basically just running through like a B major scale, essentially, using the open B string as a reference throughout most of this riff, Okay, so we're just going to go through these notes. So we're going to go down from the 11th fret on the G string. Remember, every single note I'm playing has the open B string at this point. Okay, so we're going 11 twice, 9 twice, 8 twice, and then 6 twice. Then you can come back to the 9 and do that twice, then 8 twice, and 6 twice, okay? And it doesn't really matter what fingers you use there. You can see I like to try and get them into some kind of like a scale-shaped position, but you can just do it with one finger if you want. Okay, but however you want to do it, it's absolutely no problem, just whatever feels comfortable for you. Then at that point, we're going to go all the way down the bottom of the fretboard and we're going to do 2 open strings. So the B string and the high E string, open. Okay, and that brings us on to the next section, which is this. Okay, so we're literally going to do open E string now, okay? The B string's got the 2nd fret with the 2nd finger. Okay. Then open again. Then I'm going to go to this 1st fret on the G string. I'm going to play that, the B string and the E string. So I get this. And then back to the open strings on the B and the E string. So just one more time. Okay, so up to that point we get this. And then we're going to go. So one more time, 2. And then open strings, and then you're going to go. So this is literally taking the 2nd fret of the B string, bending it up a semitone, like that, back down, and then off. Okay. So all together, that part sounds like this. Sorry. If you add in the little chord bit at the beginning, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's move on to the 3rd track, and it's going to sound like this. Okay, so let's go through this, and this one's a little bit more fiddly, but such a beautiful set of chords, okay? And I will tell you the chord names as we go through it, but the most important thing is that you kind of just learn the part. But it is good to know the little bit of theory behind it. So nice and slowly, it sounds like this. Just caught my fingers a little bit there, but basically that's it. So we're kicking off with this chord. And really this chord is called an A minor add 9. It is essentially an A minor chord. So we just start with this A, and then we've got the 3rd, the minor 3rd, the 5th, and the root. So the way I'm fretting that is open A string, and then I'm going, my 3rd finger is on the 10th fret of the D. Then the 9th fret of the G string is my 2nd finger, and my little finger is the 10th fret of the B string. And my 1st finger stretch right back over here to the B note, which is on the 7th fret of the E string. And that's the note that is your add 9. Okay, so it's basically a B, so that's the 2nd note in the scale of A. A minor, but we've added it right at the top, so you get that kind of, it's an A minor chord plus the ninth, A minor add 9. Really lovely chord, and you're just gonna arpeggiate that. Okay, so you're literally just gonna go down, 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 up, 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 up. So just literally arpeggiating through that chord. Then what I want you to try and do is I want you to try and keep that there if you can. This will make it easier as you learn it. If you can keep that bit there, but get this finger doing a bit of stretching, okay? Now if this all becomes a bit too much of a stretch for you, then just try and keep that finger on, just the little finger, just as your reference point. But let's see how you get on. So we're then gonna go and open A string, stretch the first finger to the B, okay, so over here to the 7th fret. Now, I can feel that that's a stretch, so I might find it easier just to keep that little finger there, keep the rest off. The little finger's the key, really. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that open A string, B, and then we're gonna do a little upstroke on the high E string, and you get a little bit of that B string in there as well, because that sounds really good together. So, okay. Then we're going to come across to the C, so go up a fret, and then again do the high E string. If you get a little bit of the B string in there, then that's great. Then the open A string, and again, the high E string. So that bit there goes like this. Okay, so don't worry too much about always being so specific with getting 2 in there. It can be 1, it can be 2. You can hear both on the track at different points. So, and then you need to create this chord. So this is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5, okay? So it's exactly the same fretting as I had initially for that A minor type chord, but I'm gonna add the F sharp. So my first finger comes to the 9th fret on the A string. And we're gonna hit it like this. So we're gonna go, so we hit the F sharp first, and then we leave that for a note before arpeggiating through the rest of the chord. So it's, okay. Then you're gonna grab that same note and do a little bend. So a little half bend. Drop down to the F and keep exactly the same chord shape on. So it's still that A minor. So where you were here, you can keep that on if you want. Just makes it harder to do the little bend, but I take it off and then I create it there. It creates you an F major 7th chord, and then you're going to arpeggiate through that. You're going to go through the D, G, B, high E string, and then back down, okay? So you get this. So you literally arpeggiate all the way through that chord and finish on the D string. Okay. So all in all, it's this. And I absolutely love that. I think that's my favorite one of the lot, just because it's so intricate, but it's such a beautiful sound. It's so well put together. It's Dave Grohl at his absolute best. Okay, just 2 more tracks, guys. Maybe you can start to guess what the last 2 might be. Do hang on to the last one because it might surprise you. But here's the 4th track. Sounds like this. Okay, so let's go through this track, and it's a really cool usage of the low D string, so actually down tuning from E to D on this low string, and utilizing kind of power chords and just little ways around making power chords a bit more interesting. So the first bit which we're going to do is this. Okay, so if we slow that down and count through that, it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So notice that with my right hand I'm doing all downstrokes, that's really important here. And I've got certain accents where I'm hitting the high part of the chord. So I'm just utilizing the open D string And then I'm playing an F sharp power chord here, really. So it's the 9th fret and 11th fret. Okay, so I'm going to go low D string twice, then the high power chord once, back to the low D string once, and then the power chord twice, which gives us this. Okay, then I'm going to come back to the low D string and then back to the power chord. And that's our first bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay. Now you can kind of palm mute it or leave it open. I quite like, you know, when I do it live, if I have done in the past, then I will palm mute it. I just like the effect. I think it's got a little bit of palm muting on the track, but either way, as long as you get that downstroke rhythm, it's going to sound really great. Now with the second half of it, it's almost identical, except we're going to do that double, that 3 hit, okay? So it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So we get D string, then chord, then D string one more time, and then chord, 3 hits. And then back to the low D string. So the second half, so bar 2 is... So altogether, your pattern is like this. And that's what you repeat, okay? So if you speed that up a little bit, you can hear it really starts to come together. Now the next part is where we take the same kind of rough chord, but we now bar the low D string. So we kind of change it to like a B power chord with an added note, kind of like an add 2. The name isn't really important at this point, it's just the fact that it's a really nice, it's just utilizing that shape, but using the drop D to really add a bit of thickness to it. Okay, and a new melodic sound. So we do exactly the same pattern on that. So I'm barring the 9th fret on the D and the A string, and then D string still on the 13th fret. And we get this. Exactly the same pattern. And do bear in mind as you develop this, try and make sure the high strings are blocked off so that if you did want to hit it a bit harder, you know, you're not in danger of, even if you do hit the G string or the B string, it's blocked off with the first finger. So then we're going to drop down, same shape, but down to the 5th fret now. Okay, so we're on the 5th fret, okay? And I'm just using exactly the same shape, but we've got a different pattern this time. The pattern this time is this. Okay, so much simpler. We're now just doing the low string, 1 and then the higher strings, so the power chord bit, on the 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so it's a thing that repeats in 2. So 1 and 2 and. Okay, so you go low, low, high, low, and then repeat that again. Low, low, high, low, 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 high, low. Whatever you've got to do to get it into your head, you know, I just have the melody. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, but whatever you need to do, if you want to count it through, then be my guest. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then slide that up back to where we just came from. So up onto the 9th fret and do the same pattern, but this time it's going to go over a few more bars. So. Okay, so all together the part sounds like this. Okay then everyone, and here is the 5th track, the 5th and final track, and it sounds like this. Okay, so let's go through this track, and nice and slowly it sounds like this. We'll talk about the harmonic bit in a minute, but fundamentally what we're doing is we're going through a kind of chord progression that's D to A, to F sharp minor, to E. So it's... That's the kind of basic thing we're playing over. And as you'll see from some of the parts, that's you'll need to know that for it to make sense. So we're starting on D. So we're just doing a really cool little pentatonic run here. So we're just going from the 5th fret, sliding up to the 9th, into the kind of box 1 of the D major pentatonic. Okay. And then we're going to grab that 7th fret before pulling off from the 9 to the 7 to come back to that note. Okay. Then we're going to grab the major 3rd in A. So it moves to the A major chord. Now we're going to slide in to that note on the 6th fret of the G string. And just hit it like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get... Okay. Then you get a little break where they put some harmonics in. Now we won't talk about that quite yet. We're just going to have a break for now. And then you get this sound. Okay, and you can play this in numerous types of ways. I'm just going to give you an example and you can choose where you want to play this. But basically you're just kind of running a scale shape here. So you're starting on the 7th fret, back to the 6, back to the 7, and then pull off, down to the 4. And then I like to hit the 7th fret of the A string, but you can go down again to the 2nd fret of the D string if you want to keep it all on one string. Okay, and there it's just a simple melody, you know. So you need that melody in your head to kind of play through that. But they're the notes that you use. And whether you put them all on one string, you might want to do that just for fluidity. It sounds really cool. Okay, but it is a bit fiddlier to play than if you played it in a kind of shape box. Oh. And that really is it. So if we do that together. That's your kind of riff. Now, there's these harmonics attacked in. Now, it feels like it's layered up because when they do it live, they just do a break. So they literally go, you know, stop. Like that. But you can hear there's some harmonics. Now, it's kind of like there's a couple there together, and what I would do live if I wanted those harmonics is, in terms of where I am on the fretboard, I'd hit the kind of 5th fret harmonics, the 7th fret harmonics on the A and the D string, or even the D and the G string, okay? But mainly just that D string, you know, to get a harmonic in there that's a little aggressive, okay? And then you really need a bit of gain on that to really make that work, but that's what I would do if you wanted to add that in, and that's just a natural harmonic you can bring in just by simply kind of hovering over the fretboard on that 7th fret, right on the very edge of the fret. You just touch the string, but don't push it down, and you just kind of let it ring out. Okay, the easiest natural harmonics are on the 12th fret. Okay, but you get them on the 7th and the 5th as well. But if you want to do it as they do live, which is probably going to be a lot easier because obviously the other side of it is digitalized in the studio, you would then just have a break. Okay, so one more time. And there's your riff. Okay then guys, so there's my 5 favorite tracks and how to play those intros, and all of them just bring something totally new to the table, different skills, different techniques, but each of them are just so much fun to learn. So I highly recommend going back through the video, watching it again and learning those tracks. Remember that if you want to download the Guitar Pro tab, then you can do so via the links below. So have fun with that. Please, if you still want to carry on watching myself teach on YouTube with Your Guitar Academy, then check out the actual playlists here that you can click on somewhere. And also just carry on watching. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the lessons, and I'll speak to you soon.